What's up, you guys? I'm here with my special guest, Tyquan Brown. Both actually served together in security forces out here in Spangalum. And today we have a very special story that he wants to share with you guys on how to become a motivational speaker. Some of his favorite speakers that have helped him, and also his grandmother that helped motivate him to become a motivational speaker, because he wants to be able to help people help define their why. And without further ado, Brown, hey man, thank you so much for being a guest on this podcast. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you actually wanted to get into motivational speaking.
So first off, I'm going to say I'm Tyquan Brown, and on Instagram I'm also known as God-Fearing T. My intro is Blessings My Amazing Kings and Queens. So I just want to say I got into motivational speaking because about 2 years ago my grandmother passed, and she was a very inspirational person to me. She inspired me. She touched people in ways that most people would never be touched. She wasn't a motivational speaker by any means, but she motivated me, motivated everybody she came in contact with, and she kind of taught me to get out of the box and stop doing what everybody else does. Do what makes me feel better. Do what makes me feel happy. Stop being afraid to be different. She also told me when I was in high school, when I was in school, was very consistent with being average, doing what everybody else did. Grades were slipping. I was constantly passing with 70s, C's, D's, and just getting by. She was like, just stop trying to be with everybody else, get along with the crowd, and do what you do. Do what makes you happy.
And then how did you find that motivational speaking is what makes you happy? What was inside that made you feel that, oh, I really want to do this? This is what I'm passionate about.
So I would say talking to my friends, hearing certain things they go through in life, especially joining the Air Force, meeting new people, being able to talk and meet people like my friend John right here. Also just talking to them and they're saying, you're a very inspiring person. You should definitely try to do a motivational speaking if that's something you really want to do. And I started doing it, and I started just taking off with it and getting better with it. I'm not the best at it, but that's the goal, to be the best at it.
Okay, cool. And so what are some things you're working on right now as a motivational speaker that you want to really help people to find their why?
I would say putting out more content, being consistent with my content, the work, just letting my work speak for myself, and showing everybody that you can find your why. Your why may not be mine. It may be different, which we all have different things that we want to do, but you can have to actually find your why, and you don't have to worry about what else somebody thinks about you.
I like that. One of my mentors, he always says, when you define your why, the what becomes easy, and then eventually the who will come along.
Exactly.
What is your why, Brown?
So my why, I would say to inspire people. I have siblings, younger cousins that I want to show that you don't have to do things to get out of our environment, the community I'm from. You're either a basketball player, you're either doing drugs, you're doing something you're not supposed to be doing. And that's the only way out. But my way is joining the Air Force and using that, meeting new people, not being afraid to branch out, realizing that exposure leads to expansion, and meeting new people and doing different things, and just kind of realizing who I really want to be and what I want to be as a man and a motivational speaker.
That's awesome. I like what you said there. Exposure leads to expansion. I've actually never heard that before. Creating content and being on social media, for me, I can really resonate with that, because the more you put yourself out there and the more exposure you get, the more relationships that you're able to build and grow together. Exactly. Like when I go to a lot of networking events and a lot of events to where you're putting yourself out there and you're networking with people, the first thing they come across is your social media. And for me, I really believe that your Instagram, your Twitter, whatever your main platform is, it's essentially your resume, it's your portfolio. And I was looking at your Instagram, and it's very good. It has a lot of really great topics, especially on motivational speaking, and it's coming from a place of being humble. It's coming from a place of wanting to give value to others. And I found that when you're coming from a mindset of abundance and wanting to give value and not expecting anything in return, that's usually when people really reciprocate, and then they really feel like they can connect with you. What's one of your favorite, I guess, mentors or speakers that you follow that really has helped you become the type of speaker and motivational person that you are now?
So I would say I have multiple. I have Anki Johnson, I have Eric Thomas, and recently Wallow 267. He's a very inspirational person. I like how he approaches his content, because it reaches to me in a way of where I'm from. Everything is not always sunshine. It's not always rainbows. Everything. Sometimes you may have your lights get cut off. You might have your water get cut off. So he's coming from a perspective of he's been in jail for a long time, and he got out and he just got to work. He didn't make any excuses. While he was in jail, he took accountability for what he did. While he's there, he got out and he started working and then go after what he wanted.
Okay, that's awesome. So it sounds like for you, your upbringing, you know how a lot of really successful people, they all have a common ground of coming from nothing. They're born from the ashes. I think a lot of us, we really resonate with that as far as how far we've come. Like for me, my dad, we grew up in poverty, man. Like my dad, he's from the Philippines, and I remember him telling me the story of him and his 6 brothers would all share a 1-bedroom apartment, 1 bedroom, 1 bath, super small. They'd all sleep on one mattress with, his parents were there and everything. He was the oldest in the family, but he was only like 12 years old at the time, so he was like the man of the house. Granted, his dad was there, but he wasn't really there. And coming from poverty, they would have to drink water out of a garden hose just to survive, and they would work and work and work until they eventually got enough money to move to the States. And then when they moved to the States, he was able to become a manager of McDonald's. His brothers started to work for him, and then now he's doing very well. And it really taught me and my sisters that, you know, it doesn't matter where you come from. All that matters is how bad you want it, and then how often are you willing to fail to continue to move forward. And that's, I think, the greatest thing about America too, man, is it doesn't matter where you come from. Look at a lot of the celebrities. They come from nothing and they create their own generational wealth. And I can tell from your motivation and just seeing how humble you are too. When I first met you, bro, I could tell like there's something different about you. And I think that's why we connected too. Come across a lot of people like yourself that are very humble, and you can tell that, hey, I want to help someone. I want to be able to provide that value. Would you say that your grandmother was one of the biggest mentors in your life, or was there other people that helped motivate you other than motivational speakers that helped shape you as a person?
So I would say my grandmother was a very inspirational part of my life. My mom, my parents, everybody in some way in my family was, people I grew up with and grew up around were in some part attached to it, whether it would be a negative way or positive way. But I would say, like Eric Thomas said, growing up in America, 75% of the work is already done. Mm-hmm. You just have to get up and do the 25. So it's like other countries, things that they can't do, that they wish they could do, we get pretty much handed to us, and we just have to do our little bit of work, wake up, and actually put in the sweat, blood, sweat, and tears to get there. And like I would say, she was an inspiration in the aspect of, she pretty much told me, like, we came from, like you said, your family, where your family came from, growing up in poverty. My mom, her sisters and brothers, my grandmother, they grew up living in shelters, going from shelter to shelter, because certain things that were going on in the household, so they had to get out and find different places to stay. Mm-hmm. And like on times like this, like it's 8 o'clock at night, they'll probably be outside trying to find somewhere to sleep or food. Wow. In the rain, trying to find somewhere to go.
What's something you really remember from your childhood to where it was like one of the darkest times where you learned something from the most?
So I would say probably, honestly, nothing from my childhood really. It would just be recently, the 2 years losing my grandmother. That was, and I wouldn't say loss. Honestly, I wouldn't say loss, is because I know where she is. She's in heaven, and I know that for sure more than anything. So I wouldn't say loss. I would just say the experience of actually losing her, finding some things out about myself, because I was in tech school when it happened. I got caught up to leadership. I actually took my phase 1 test, my phase 3 test, I think it was, and I passed it. And then I got the call from leadership over at Firehouse that they wanted me to come over there because of it. And I didn't know who it was that they were talking about that passed. They just said my grandmother. Mm-hmm. And I had an older grandmother, which my grandmother that passed was taken care of because she had medical issues from years back. And I thought it was her when they said it, but my grandmother actually passed in a car accident that same day. And they found out about it. No problem, appreciate it. So I found out about it that day. The first thing they asked me was, what do you want from us? I said, prayer. If I can't get home because of COVID, at least pray for my family. Give me a chance to talk to them. And they said, what do you want to do right now? You're in training. Your training day is going on. What do you want to do? So I said the first thing came to my mind was, what would she want me to do? And that was go back to training, finish the training day, then check on my family in the dorms. And I did that. Just went back to work, because at the same time, she always taught me, whatever you start, you finish.
That's good.
And you don't stop things until you finish it.
Okay. It's amazing, man. Your grandma sounds like a very amazing person. I wish I could have met her. And
she was.
Yeah, man. So let's talk a little bit about, you did mention in America, you said Inge Johnson said 75% of the work is already done and 25% we just have to show up. Being overseas now for 2 years in Germany, what have you noticed the biggest differences of being in Germany versus America is in relation to what you mentioned with Inge Thomas?
So they value things a lot better than we do in the States. Not to talk about the States or talk bad about them, because I love the U.S., but they value things a lot better, like things they handle a little bit differently, whether it be electricity, not having AC because of certain reasons, pumping their gas before they go into the store, stuff like that. They value things a little bit differently than us, and if we carry those things into the States, I feel like we'll be able to keep a lot more. Mm-hmm. It's not about how much you have of something, it's about valuing what you do have.
I did notice that myself. I was overseas for 10 years. I was in Italy for 4, Turkey for 2, then Germany for 5, and then now here again. And I noticed that in Europe, their way of life is a lot slower. It's not very conducive for entrepreneurship, but it's a lot slower to make you realize that, hey, there's life outside of America, and there's a life that's, honestly, in my opinion, more beautiful than being in America. As much as I love being an American, I love being in America, out here is so peaceful, bro, compared to the States. I'm California. When I got back when I came home last year, I actually had culture shock because of how different the culture is. And being out here, I know we're all Americans here, but we have such a little utopia. We're all forged from, the military, so we all have that brotherhood and camaraderie. When you go back stateside, it's so different how people treat each other. I remember at my first time arriving at Baltimore, this kid was cussing out the flight check-in counter girl, and I was like, this is America, this is crazy. Over here, you don't really see that, honestly. And then everyone here is pretty respectful for the most part. If anything, they're very kind. especially for foreigners like ourselves. And what I've really noticed with Europe versus America, there's a better work-life balance here. They're a lot more focused on, hey, yeah, do your work, but enjoy your time off. In America, a lot of my friends, they work nonstop, 24/7, on the phone all the time. And when I got back and got into real estate, I was like, I don't want a life like that. I left active duty to have more time freedom, to have time with family. And I think for you and, you know, a lot of entrepreneurs, we're chasing success, but everyone has their own definition of success. For me, it's having that time freedom for one, being able to do whatever you want, whenever you want, with whoever you want, and then having that financial freedom to be able to live life on your terms with no limit as far as where you can go or what you can do. What does success mean to you? Because I know everyone has a different terminology of success.
So I was saying, like I say in most of my videos or a few of my videos recently, success is whatever you think it is. So whatever you're doing, like success to you may be shooting this podcast right now. Success to me may be just being on this podcast. So it's a different perception. Like success is, it doesn't have to mean you have a lot of money. I mean, my version of success is being financially stable, being comfortable, being able to do what I want to do whenever I want to, being able to give more. I want to be in a position where I can give more to people. Because like I said, my family came from not poverty, but they came from hard times. So things weren't always easy. So I want to be able to give more to them and give more to people like that came from that situation, because I caught it on the back end. I didn't catch the shelter living. I didn't catch any of that. I caught that on the back end once my grandmother gave her life to God and got to church, and she got all her family in the church and everything, and then things got better for us. She lived the life, and to the day she left this earth, she was living that life, and she got to where she wanted to be.
Okay. Would you say that you were always like a giver or a person like as humble as you are before you joined the military, or even not even before you joined the military, but before your grandma started mentoring you, or was that something where you changed because of her mentorship?
So I would say it's the way I grew up. I grew up around a lot of females. My dad was always in the house. He was a truck driver, so he was on the road, but he was active in my household. But grew up around my mom, my grandmother, my aunts. Was around them a lot, and they taught me to take care of. They took care of me. They did everything, like even the sacrifices that I didn't notice as a kid, because sometimes you don't really notice the sacrifices that parents make, grandparents make, but you feel it. You feel the effects of it. You feel that, oh, my grandmother did this to give me this. My mom did this to give me that. My dad did this to give me that. So you trying to appreciate it a little bit more. As a kid, you don't really do it, but once I got older, I really realized, and like especially coming overseas and being in the military, it's like my parents and my grandparents really did a lot for me. My family did a lot for me, so I value things a lot more. Things may not go your way, but at the same time, realize things could be going a lot worse, and somebody could be wanting the cards that God gave you, that God dealt you.
That's so true.
So be grateful.
Yeah, and to hit a little bit on that, sounds like you like to turn negatives into positives, and you like to always look at things in a good sense of, hey, these are the cards I've dealt. It could always be worse. I'm the same mindset too. I would say a couple of years ago, I didn't always think that though. I was more negative, but I think it's also attributed to our career field. This, as you guys know, military police, this career field is very toxic. Not to talk bad about security forces, but it really depends on your environment. And for me, when I left the career field from active duty and became a civilian, my mindset and my energy changed so much when I got into real estate. And then coming back now as a reservist, you see the difference. You see how, like, a lot of the guys here, their morale is not there. They're very like, oh my gosh, I hate being here. And then I'm looking at things, I'm like, this is a really good unit. This is really good leadership here. For one, you're in a very good location, and then it's very chill here. But I guess when you're stuck in such an environment like that, and that's all you know, you kind of get your blinders, and that's all that they see. They're closed off. But I think it's not the fault of this career field. It's a fault of, for one, each individual person, their own mindset that they have to change, and then just not everyone always thinks positively. It's something you kind of have to learn how to do and how to become a better person like that. Going into, I guess, mindset, what has helped you the most with turning negatives into positives? Because I know there's a lot of people out there that try to do it all the time, but it's been hard for them, including myself too.
It's knowing that things I have now in this part of my life, before I joined the military, for most times I didn't have my own money, relied on my family a lot. My parents took care of me. And like just realizing that I'm here. I signed the dotted line to do what I do, even if this career fit is not what a lot of people want it to be. I make situations that are not genuinely what I want to really be in, a situation that I really want to be in, by doing the things, being positive, staying positive, and try to help other people. Like I always see, like I know I can get through any situation. Like my grandmother passed, and I got through that situation pretty good. I just wanted to take care of my family, make sure my family was good. So I kind of just look at it as I always want to put a smile on somebody else's face, and that kind of why I got into motivational speaking is I just want to put a smile on somebody else's face, pick somebody else up. Even if life may not be going good for me, I just want to see somebody else doing good, and that makes me happy.
That's so good, man. One of my favorite quotes, or I guess ideologies, is even in the darkest of times, be the brightest smile in the room. because I think enthusiasm and positivity is super contagious. Like how like a virus is contagious. I can say positivity and enthusiasm is like a virus in a good way. The more enthusiastic you are about life and the more positive you are, the room can change. I don't know if you've ever been in a room where there's someone so charismatic that when they enter, you know, you feel the difference. Everyone becomes a lot more lively. They're a lot more happier. It really is just a shift of your energy and your mindset and your outlook. So I think that's definitely a big factor as far as positivity goes.
Exactly. And you can tell, like, basically by who you are. Like, sometimes I wouldn't say I'm the most charismatic person because I've kind of gotten into myself a little bit and who I really am. Being a positive person, I kind of got into that a little bit more recently, just doing videos and recording, because now I'm comfortable being who I am around anybody. And I always was. It was just some things you just shelter and keep to yourself until you get comfortable being around people. But now I don't care who you are, where you from, I'm going to be who I am and, you know, show you that person. Like, if anything good comes to me, anything bad comes to me, I want to be myself at the end of the day, because like Frank Sinatra said, I did it my way.
I like that. Frank Sinatra is one of my favorite artists too. That is awesome, man. That's cool. So I guess going forward with like being a motivational speaker and wanting to help someone find their why, what is one person or I guess scenario to where you remember looking back at it that you were able to help change someone's life if you've already experienced that?
So when I was home, I actually went on leave about a month or two ago in January, and I did a motivational speaking engagement at one of my schools. It wasn't at the school, at my middle school, but I did it on Zoom for a Black History Month program, and I actually spoke. And I spoke on a topic that, like, it just came. Like, I didn't write anything down, didn't do a PowerPoint or anything like that. I just spoke on it, like, right there. And it came up, and it was based off of adversity. And I just was telling them the situation I went with my grandmother and everything and how I got through it. What did I do, the steps I took to get through it. And we all not going to do the same things. We all don't get over things the same way. But it's just letting you know that you can get over anything. If someone that you really care about leaves this earth sporadically and you don't know, you weren't expecting it. If you can get over that, you can get over anything. So I guess a teacher, I got called, and I don't really care about getting the acknowledgement or anything like that. I don't care about you clapping your hand, patting me on the back. I can do that myself at the end of the day. I appreciate it because I'm humble at the same time, but I know I'm doing good, so I try to be humble and take that thanks, take that congratulations and everything. But I would say he said, and he was an older person. I never met him before, still haven't met him to this day. He said I influenced him to make a decision that he was trying hard to avoid for a long time, an opportunity that was knocking at his door that he just didn't want to answer and put life into, and he actually got out and put some life into it.
Wow, that's amazing. So for you, how did it make you feel when you know that, hey, I positively impacted this person?
Made me feel good immediately. Like, I was like, even if it's just one person, because even in my videos, I don't care how many people view it. Yeah, you want more engagement, but people can see it and see it from their perspective and take what they want from it. But I'm only looking for that one person or however many people that's taking it and using it to benefit them. You don't have to even see it from my perspective, but use it to benefit you in some positive way.
I like that. That's really good. I like how for you don't care about the views. It's more so, hey, I know I made an impact on someone's life. Are you familiar with Ed Milet?
I heard of him.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite, like, for one, mentors and then motivational speakers. I was at an event in San Diego. It's called the Scale and Escape event. They pretty much teach you as business owners, entrepreneurs, how to escape your 9-to-5 job and create a business to where you can flourish without actually having to be in the job. And Ed Milet came out there, and I've heard him talk before online, but never in person. And he was one of those motivational speakers to where I've never been in a room where he made the entire room cry. Like, literally cry, because it's very emotional, his story. And what I learned from that was, being a motivational speaker, you have to share a lot of your vulnerabilities. And you have to share stories that are unique to you and that no one else can use, because it helps paint a picture as far as who you are, the message you're trying to get across to that person, the person maybe even on the other side of this camera who you're trying to reach out to. Everyone has a different trigger. Everyone has a different thing that's going to relate more to them. And his biggest message up there was him being at the event. He was actually losing money. He makes like millions and millions of dollars per hour. And when he's at a speaking engagement, they don't even pay him enough money to be there. So for him, his biggest why was very similar to you. His biggest thing was, I'm here to change one person's life. I don't care if it's making me lose money, if I'm losing time. But for him, there was one person that changed his dad's life, which changed his life, and it was like a trifecta. It was like a domino effect. If that one person did not continue to do one more to change his dad's life, it wouldn't have changed his life. And what you're saying, it sounds like you want to do the same thing. It doesn't matter how many views you get. It doesn't matter how many speaking engagements you get. It doesn't matter how many comments you get on Instagram. As long as it can change one person's life, that's all that matters. And I feel like people that have that kind of energy and that kind of vibe and that kind of need to want to create a legacy and give people something to, for one, fight for, and for two, have hope, to know that, hey, there's something on the other side of this darkness. I think that's very, for one, you have a big heart, and two, there's not enough people in the world like you, man. So definitely keep up what you're doing, and I'd say always surround yourself with people that are wanting, or that you want to be more like, and it sounds like you're already doing that too, man.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, man. As far as motivational speaking goes, what are some, I know there's some people out there that want to become better with motivational speakers, including myself. A lot of leaders within the Air Force, they have different, you've been to ALS already, right?
Not yet.
So
yet.
not
Going there soon.
Okay, so ALS is Airman Leadership School, you guys, and it pretty much it teaches young airmen how to become better leaders, more so in a supervisory sense, to where you can lead other troops and be a supervisor. And one of the things I took away from that class was the different types of leadership in the military. You know, at the very far left, you have laissez-faire. It's a leader that doesn't do anything. He's the type where if it's not broke, don't fix it. And on the very far right, you have a transformational leader. That's the person that you see in, for example, like, I can't even think of a movie, like, picture like a war, and this that one leader to where he's speaking and motivating people, but he's also transforming people in a way that makes them change to become a better person. And for me, I want to become more of a transformational leader, and one of the key traits of that is being able to motivate your people and being able to change their lives. What are maybe 3 tips that you have for someone that wants to become a better motivational speaker or leader?
So I would say, as far as a leader, the perspective of being a leader, because everybody won't be a motivational speaker. Everybody doesn't have that goal to be one. But as far as being a leader, realize you're not described as a great leader until you impact somebody's life. You think about, if I leave this room right now talking to you, or if you leave this room right now, you want me to be able to do the same thing that I'm doing right now, be respectful, be motivating, be who I am right now, and to be a great person, genuinely right now, and a great airman in every sense of the word right now without you being here. That's what a leader is I can walk out of this room right now and you're going to be able to handle things, if not better than me, exactly how I did it. Mm-hmm. So that's what a leader is, somebody that can impact a life to where this person is going to be great no matter if I'm around or not. They don't have to hold my hand. I don't have to hold theirs. They're just going to do what they're supposed to do to impact somebody else's life in a way. So being a leader is someone impacting your life and in some way making you impact somebody else's life.
Okay, that's really amazing, and it's like, that's fire, bro, what you just said. And I feel like a lot of people out there, I don't know what your take is on it, but I feel like a lot of people are not meant to lead. I think that leaders can be born, but I think leaders can also be made. It just depends, though, on the type of person, because I feel like not everyone should lead, and the people that can lead, sometimes they just need a little push, or maybe they just need a little guidance or direction to make them become a better leader. And I could tell when I met you that, like I said, there's something different about you. You're definitely a leader, too. When did you really recognize that, hey, because you have a gift, man, like being able to help motivate people and help bring them out of that darkness? There's not a lot of airmen that I've met that have that same mindset.
I appreciate that.
What would you say is, I guess, 3 important traits of having that mindset or having that persona to wanting to do more for people?
So I would say being humble. The perfect match of being humble, being able to hold yourself accountable, knowing when you're wrong and being able to say when you're wrong. Because people want to see when you're vulnerable. They want to be able to know that I can see this person as a vulnerable person. Not being that you're weak, but you can show me you're not always strong at the same time. Mm-hmm. And also being respectful. Those things, and treating other people the same way. The golden rule, treat people the way you want to be treated. So like, I always respect people. I don't care who you are, where you're from, how you may have treated me. I was always taught by my grandmother and my family to treat people the way I want to be treated. Like, if someone treats me bad, okay, I don't determine how they treat me. I determine how I treat them, how I reciprocate it, how I share that energy.
That's amazing. And it sounds like you're very resilient, too. I know in the Air Force we really harp on resiliency and always looking at things in a positive manner to where, hey, no matter how dark things get, you can always pull out of that darkness and become a better person, grow from it, and then also like help others who are going through that dark time. What would you say was one of the hardest things that you've ever had to get through, other than like the passing of your grandmother, or maybe some of the things you had to grow up with, but maybe more recently, like what is one of the hardest things you had to get through to help you grow?
I would say last year I had a lot of accomplishments, things I achieved, and they were good things. It's realizing you have to sometimes take your mind, like it's resiliency. People think of it as getting through bad times, getting through hard times, but I think of it as I'm gonna get through the hard times the same way I get through the good times. Like, I don't always harp on, I congratulate myself and I take the acknowledgement and everything, but when I do things good, like I was getting awards and everything last year, but I don't like to be complacent and sit there and sit in that area and just wait, because I realize somebody else is trying to take that spot. Not to thinking about someone else taking my spot, but it's like someone else is working hard to get to where I am. So why would I sit there and wait and get comfortable sitting there just being complacent in that area instead of just working to be better, trying to be better? I'm not really like too keen on like getting awards and stuff like that. I want it because it's going to come. But it's gonna come with me doing things my way, doing the way I want to do things, being respectful, being who I am, and not being complacent. Like pushing myself to be better every day, and not really focusing on what somebody may say about it, because people are not gonna always be happy when you achieve things. People are not always gonna be sad when you don't achieve things. So you just gotta work through the things and keep going.